which will be hilarious when we start spanking Hosanna.
Oh, noting the humor again, this always crops up in conversations around Christian spanking.
Which we will, on the record, because the Bible so clearly says...
No. The Bible nowhere requires Christian parents to spank their small children, their infants, their toddlers, their preschoolers, anybody. Keeping in mind, again, that discipline, biblically speaking, is a broad concept. You can maybe think of discipleship rather than it equaling something like spanking. The Proverbs, you have a couple of options of how you interpret the handful of rod verses. Proverbs is a book of wisdom literature, which means it's a collection of wise observations about the way the world works, intended to cultivate wisdom in the listener, which original audience was the young men of the royal household. When we read the Proverbs, we interpret them intuitively as wise sayings. We interpret them metaphorically, right? Most of us don't put a knife to our throat if we overeat. Most of us don't hand out alcohol to the suffering. Most of us don't try and figure out, how do I answer a fool according to his folly while also not answering a fool according to his folly? We read them and understand they are making a wise observation about life to apply to our lives to cultivate wisdom in our lives. They're not mandates, they're not instructions, they're not commands. Why is it then that for this handful of rod verses, Christians want to insist that these are really about spanking toddlers and preschoolers? I contend it's because of decades of popular Christian parenting books that have offered parents made up rules for the godly way to spank and connected them to these ancient proverbs. Here's the thing, if you don't want to read the Proverbs metaphorically, your other option is to read them literally, but that doesn't land you at spanking toddlers and preschoolers on the bottom with your hand or with a wooden spoon. It lands you at getting a stout wooden club that is used to beat the backs of imprisoned or enslaved people and to use it on your young adult or teenage sons, kind of like caning. To apply the rod proverbs literally that way makes as much sense as handing out knives to your dinner guests and telling them they need to put them to their throat if they overeat. I think we would all see the ridiculousness in that kind of interpretation. Wherever you land on interpreting these, what they most certainly are not about, there's no reason to conclude that they are about taking toddlers and preschoolers and hitting them on their bottoms. That is a completely made up interpretation.